I feel like a meth head, shirtless, recording a video at 3 a.m. But, so today I'm going to go over, I'm just going to tell you what actually matters, and that is compound lifts. Now, compound lifts are an interesting thing. Technically, dumbbell overhead press, dumbbell bench, even like a dumbbell squat is a compound lift. But whenever you think of compound lifts, you immediately think of a barbell. However, that's not where you have to stop, and I'll show you why. Now, a compound lift doesn't have to be limited to just the barbell or dumbbells. It can be any movement that works a multitude of muscles at the same time. Basically, anything that isn't isolation. So as you can see here, I'm doing one of the kings of compound lifts, the squat, 105 for 6, by the way. But you can any movement that works multiple muscles. That can be anything from a pull up to a squat, as you see, the king, the deadlift, a bench, overhead press, rows, even like dumbbell or machine rows. Still technically work multiple muscles at the same time, so they can be considered a compound lift. I actually forgot to explain why compound lifts are important. It's because they're your base. They're the foundation that you build everything else off of. If you can't squat a lot of weight, you're probably not going to have very big legs unless you're on a ton of juice and whatnot. If you can't, say, bench a lot of weight, well, I'm sorry about your genetics. It sucks, really, I know. But it's safe to say your chest isn't going to be as big as it could be. So you want to build your compound lifts up before you start adding in like isolation movements. Here's another thing to consider. If you're intermediate to advanced in your lifting career, you're doing everything right, and you're starting to get pain, let's say for the bench press, the barbell flat bench. If you're getting pain in your shoulder, your wrist, or your elbow, or even all three if you're really unlucky, you might want to switch it up. Like you can switch from a barbell to dumbbells and switch up the grip if your wrists are hurting. Same with pull-ups. If you have access to a full gym, you can go from the standard overhand pull-up or even chin-ups to a neutral grip to kind of free up the wrists a little bit. You can use rings. That helps out a lot, I've heard, from the calisthenics warriors and all that stuff. Another point, the reason that total body splits don't work for intermediate to advanced lifters is because of something called axial loading. What that is the cumulative loading on the spine, specifically the low back. So say, like for me example, I do squats on push and then the very next day RDLs on pull. Eventually that might catch up to me in my low back because that's stress in the low back. However, something you can do to get around this is switch from, say, a squat to a Bulgarian split squat RDL to, say, a trap bar RDL. Try to limit it as best you can. And that's pretty much it. Goodbye.